wanting to do for a while. And yeah, so that is my intentional pause for this show. And with that, I think we should talk about what an intentional pause is a little bit more and the power of it. So, resistance, what episode was that? Let me look. Okay, I had to go way back there. Episode 44 of the show. So this was a long time ago. But in episode 44, I talk all about what resistance is, how to move past it, and all of that in depth. So I will link that in the show notes, but definitely go back. If this is something that intrigues you, it's definitely something we should all be aware of, because resistance really, really has the ability to stop us from taking action towards our deepest dreams and desires. Resistance basically comes from our ego, and our ego is not bad. Our ego simply wants to keep us safe, and this is very important when we are in physical danger. But our ego doesn't know the difference between physical and mental danger. So our ego basically will see us trying to break out of our current bubble and to grow and to change and to evolve. And our ego will use resistance to stop us, right? To keep us, quote unquote, safe and cozy in our little bubble, even if we don't want to be in that bubble anymore. Maybe we're miserable in that bubble. Maybe we're just over that bubble. So then there's this wall that gets put up to keep us from breaking out of that bubble. But on the other side of that wall, on the other side of that resistance, is our greatness. On the other side of resistance is the things that we really, really deeply desire and what we want to manifest, but we haven't been able to get there yet. So a lot of times when something's really important to us, say we want to start a podcast, say we want to write a book, say we want to start a new business or change careers or just move companies, our ego is going to give us all sorts of excuses as to why we don't need to do that. Oh, but you have to do laundry. Oh, but you have to do this or that, But that is simply resistance. And if we can really begin to see that for what it is, we can make the choice to let it hold us back or to climb over that wall and move forward anyway, right? And we really want to make sure to be careful to not get stuck in a cycle of resistance. But when sometimes life throws us big curveballs, or we feel really stuck on something, like we have writer's block, or we've been looking for a new job and nothing is working, sometimes it's important to take an intentional pause. An intentional pause is an intentional amount of time that we give ourselves to take a break and come back to something. This can be a very fine line. So it's really, really important to be conscious of if you are taking an intentional pause or letting resistance hold you back. So if you realize that you're stuck, or if suddenly life has thrown you some curveballs and you are overwhelmed, you don't have time, and there's just some things you really need to take care of so that you can really focus on what it is that you're trying to do to change your life, then it's time to take an intentional pause. Okay, so giving yourself a set amount of time. You don't want it to be too long, because the longer you go, the more resistance can build and the harder it is to get back into whatever you were doing, right, going to the gym, perfect, or exercising, the perfect example. The longer we stay sedentary, the harder it is to get ourselves to do that first workout again or that first yoga class again. But then after we break that cycle of stagnation, we start to get back in the flow, right? What is it? I always blank on this one. What is in motion stays in motion. What's not in motion stays not in motion. I'm totally butchering that, but you know what I mean. So yeah, an intentional pause is so powerful. It can be so good for you because when something is really important, but we end up being overloaded with maybe an exciting life change like a pregnancy or a wedding or, the illness of a parent or someone we really love, we can get really overloaded and it can really block our creativity. It can make our work lackluster. It can make it feel impossible to do what we want to do, or it can completely take away the joy of why we are doing it to begin with. Remember, the universe has big ass plans for you, and sometimes she throws things in your way so that you can learn and grow even more so that your creation can become even bigger and brighter. Right? And your creation could be something you're creating, can be literally the creation of your life. So know that sometimes when we really want to do something, if we've really been trying to make it happen, but we are getting stuck and feeling overwhelmed, taking an intentional pause can be a really powerful way to take a step back, to do what you need to do, to, clear your schedule or to rearrange things or to give yourself things to think about so that when you come back from that pause, you can come back fully in it. And also remember, again, the longer you let things go, the harder it can be to push through the resistance and get back to it. So don't let your pause be too long. Here's an example. I've been working on a book proposal. I think I don't know if I talked about this on the show. I can't remember, but I wrote the rough draft of my book last year. And then I needed to write a book proposal so I can pitch it. And the book proposal was very overwhelming. And I have this wonderful client who's a writer who's been helping me with it. But a lot goes into it, and I have been experiencing resistance like crazy, of course. And I know what resistance is, so I know what it is. I know it doesn't mean I need to stop. I know it means that I actually need to sit my ass down first thing in the morning before I let my mind come up with all these other things I need to do and do it. But when I found out I was pregnant, and I was also launching my Sedona retreat, which is coming up in September. 2 spots left if anyone's interested. I'm launching my new yoga school with Nazli Takesh and Justice Klein. And I'm launching some other things that are still not ready to be announced into the world. With that, and being exhausted from being pregnant and planning a wedding, I knew I needed to take an intentional pause on that book proposal. I also just felt kind of stuck with it. Like I would sit down to do it, I would write, but it just felt like not the way that I wanted my message to come across. And I decided to take a break for the month of May and to come back. And I actually sat down yesterday for 3 hours. And it felt so good. Like I'm so excited. And I've had opportunities to read other books and get inspired by the way they speak and the way that they or write and the messages and things like that. So that intentional pause has served me so well in this instance. And I think, a lot of times people get really, really hard on themselves. And then that just holds us back even more. Because then we're like, oh, I'm lazy. Oh, I should be doing this. Oh, I should be doing that. Maybe you just need an intentional pause. But remember, this is a pause with a set timeline. You put intentionality into it. What do you want to get out of taking that pause so that you can come back into this project or this new chapter of your life or whatever you're trying to do fully and powerfully. So that is what an intentional pause is. That's how to take one. And I want to really encourage you guys to take them when you need them. Show yourself compassion, show yourself kindness, and give yourself a pause when you need it. But don't let resistance stop you from going after your dreams. Fine line. Okay. All right, my loves. So that's the message for today. I hope you found value in it. As always, if you do, please remember to review the podcast. If you review it on Apple Podcasts and give it 5 stars, I will be so grateful forever. Remember to click subscribe so that, once you really get back into the swing of things mid-July, you get notified of the new episodes. And please share this episode with anyone that you know could benefit